Hello and welcome to the Steven Universe rewatch podcast for the Expletives Included YouTube channel. Today we've got me, Daniel, and Keir also,
Hello.
as always. And today we're looking at episode 7, Bubble Buddies, and episode 8, Serious Stephen.
Right. Bubble Buddies. Written and storyboarded by Kat Morris and Aleph Romanillos. First broadcast on December 2nd, 2013.
Episode 7, Bubble Buddies,
Yeah.
which is our first introduction to Connie.
Yep, Stephen's main squeeze.
We don't have to call her a squeeze.
I felt like being from the 20s for a second. Yeah. She's the love interest. Kind of.
Kind of. She's his crush.
Yeah, but it's also kind of a friendship thing, so. So, we begin this episode with Stephen being a smooth motherfucker.
Yeah, it starts off with him exercising and riding his bike,
To
which
impress.
completely stuns all the gems.
Well, I didn't even know he had a bike.
Also, I think it's important to point out that his helmet is incredibly dorky,
And matches his shirt.
which is also incredibly dorky.
What's wrong with the star shirt?
I know, the shirt's cool. It's just the fact that he has a matching helmet.
Okay, fair enough. That's probably Pearl's idea.
Maybe. I can actually see that happening, yes.
So he takes this bike out, which the gems are surprised at.
Well, mainly because he's bicycling in the sand, which is, not a good idea.
So I'm told.
Yeah, we don't actually know.
And he basically rides up to near Connie and, starts being...
A dork?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't even pretend to stay smooth about that. Again, that's that's one of the most awkward one-sided conversations I've ever heard.
It's like, my bike has got 5 speeds. It's totally cool.
Got a bell. Ding ding.
It's also totally cool. And, I bet all the kids want to ride his bicycle. Wait a second. No. Actually, do cut that part out. That just sounds wrong. I didn't realize that when it's... I didn't realize how wrong that would sound when I said it.
I promise nothing. And then he falls over onto his bike and just freaks out and runs away.
Yeah, he falls, screams. Such a dork. And I've made sure to say that he's a dork so many times in this first bit, just for this one extra bit in the notes which I've written next to all of the dork, so dorky, is that he is still far smoother than I will ever be.
You did it before I said it, Sam.
That's the only way I can steal your thunder.
Though, this is actually one of the more interesting relationships to progress between Stephen and Connie. And it actually goes from these very dorky, awkward beginnings to being quite a true, genuine friendship.
I think that happens even in this episode. Just
Yeah.
further ahead when they're at the bottom of the ocean, the conversation they have is really...
Yeah, but more levels are added, is what I mean. It's sort of a very nicely developed relationship. To the point where actually you can have these two kids legitimately sharing a moment of silence together, and it doesn't feel forced. Which is nice.
Do we see her much more, or is it just kind of like every couple of episodes, or...?
Every couple of episodes.
Okay.
So, Stephen runs screaming back to the gems.
Oh, I've got something here before we get to what happens when he gets home. I've kind of recovered from the Cat Fingers episode by the time we were recording this, but I did make a point of noting that there are no eldritch horrors in this episode. And just the start of this episode is a nice, refreshing breeze after Lovecraftian oobly-boo.
Well, what about the worm monster?
Well, it's more just like a sea worm thing. It's not like a tentacled flayer of mines or whatever.
True, but it has got the mandibles.
Well, yeah, that's just... It makes... Are they anemones? The things which angelfish hide in?
Yeah.
They're just kind of frilly. They don't seem
No,
tentacled. It just seems kind of...
No, you see it use the mandibles to eat the glowing seagrass.
Yes. Vegetation, not human souls.
Fair enough. Okay.
It's a vegetarian horror.
From the deep.
Hmm.
So he runs screaming back to the gems, and the gems are no better than he is.
Well, Amethyst and Pearl are no better than he is.
Yeah. Pearl wants to set up a play date.
Amethyst just kind of rips into Stephen because he's got a crush.
Which everyone seems to do this episode.
Oh, no. Well, everyone apart from Garnet
And Sadie.
and Sadie. But yeah, they're all getting super excited about the fact that Stephen does have a crush on this girl.
Yeah.
And then Garnet's just like, it's like, no, just go talk to her, Stephen.
I will be dispensing the sensible advice this episode. Talk to her.
Yeah. And he makes them promise not to watch this time.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, I'm surprised that they actually kept to that. I would have expected them to say, it's like, yeah, no, sure, we won't watch. And then watch anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with you on that one. He should be noted, he grabs a glow stick bracelet from the freezer,
Hmm.
which, continuity-wise, we did see in the first episode.
That's pretty cool. I didn't realize that.
Yep.
I was like gonna say, or well, I thought when I was watching the episode, it's just like, oh yeah, this is the same freezer that we've been in like a couple of times, and it was like stuffed to the brim with cookie cat.
Yep.
So
Yeah, we see it in the first episode.
yeah, I'm glad I didn't say anything because I would have had to spend quite a bit of time removing my foot from my mouth.
Yeah, this also should be noted, there are no more cookie cats, which I think is the greater sadness of this episode.
Yes, that is the greatest sadness in Steven Universe to date.
So, grabs the bracelet, runs off, is practicing his introduction to Connie.
Ooh, actually, we do see the gems before this, and they set important foreshadowing. Earthquakes.
Oh, yes.
Which aren't earthquakes. I think it's something more sinister. Or just think it's something other than earthquakes, because it happens too often.
Yeah.
Yep, okay, so we're going back to the beach. Stephen's just kind of like saying, hi, my name is Stephen.
Repeatedly to himself.
To himself, before he actually gets to Connie.
Oh, you've been in this situation more often than I have. Do you do such things?
Not out loud. I do kind of, well, yeah, even just like thinking, oh, I'll just go up to her and I'll just say, hi, I'm Dan, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
It needs ironing out. I don't know.
You plan the steps ahead of time.
Yes. No, you plan the first step and then hope that the rest can just fall into place.
You plan what to say over the internal screaming.
Yes. But yeah, usually I've never been in a secluded beach. It's always like a public place. So if you start talking to yourself, then, well, people will notice, and then the girl will notice, and you'll just start off with internal screaming, rather than saying, hi, my name's Dan, then internal screaming. Nice. Which, it's a short gap, which kind of cutting out, but it's very important to not start with the screaming.
I see.
The more you know.
Yeah, so as Stephen's psyching himself up, we hear the monster roar, and a chunk of rock is going to fall on Connie.
So rather than kind of saying, it's like, look out, there's a boulder heading straight for you, he says, hi, my name is Stephen, and jumps on her.
Yeah. Which, you know, you have to sort of go, well, at least he's courageous.
And still smoother than I am.
Well, you're not half magic on your mother's side.
True. And then, yeah, shield bubble.
Yeah. Very nice animation for it coming out, which we don't get any other time it occurs.
Oh, don't we?
No, that's a little sad, but it is it's a couple of seconds long.
Yeah, it's quite nice. It's just like all of the rose petals kind of like folding up and then wilting away, and it's just... I like bits like that. Just like the really cool animation, and then just kind of the... Also, it feels like it would be very similar to his mother's powers, because I just assume that because her name is Rose, then all of her things would be flowery and rose-like, and it just doesn't feel like Stephen would be thinking about making rose petals on his shield bubble, so it just kind of feels like some kind of connection that they still have, even though he's never met her.
Well, he has her gem. which is a rose quartz crystal.
Mm.
I agree with you. That's a very nice touch, and leads to many fan theories that are tiring to talk about. Yeah. So now they're in a rose bubble, and
He says, "Hi, my name is Stephen," but I don't see any internal screaming behind his eyes.
that's because he's smoother. You know, he's got that shit down.
Mm.
And I should note, Connie takes this very well.
Yeah, for someone who almost died, she's just like, "Oh, oh, what the hell's happening?"
Yeah, sort of the tone of her, response to Stephen's name, introducing herself, kind of like, oh, yeah, hi. You just jumped on me and were a total talk earlier. Nice to meet you.
My name is Connie. I don't talk to many people.
I am lonely.
Mm.
That's her character for most of this episode.
Yeah.
Though we do find out her dad is a private security guard for beaches. Is that a thing?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Well, would he be like a security guard for the beach, or did she just say that she visits a lot of beaches? Or
No, she says her dad works for a bunch of different beaches. So who knows?
got to assume that's just like an American thing then, I guess.
So they're now in this bubble and they don't know how to get out. They go to the gems.
But they are thwarted by their deadliest foe yet, to the steady incline.
Yes, is they're keeping their word.
Yeah, which is, or maybe they do.
They are watching.
They are watching. They just say, "Oh shit, he's coming straight for us." It's like, well, we can't go out. He'll know that we were watching him.
I like that option because they do come running at the end when he's in legitimate danger.
But after he's already defeated the worm, so do you think it's just they saw the monster, and or do you think they were still watching Stephen? Because actually, he does a lot of stupid stuff in this episode.
Well, they don't know what's going on. So
yeah, I don't think they. I think they probably saw him kind of come up to the steady incline.
Yeah.
But they didn't notice him like at the last bit. They noticed the monster.
Yeah. Well, so after trying the gems, Stephen's next immediate thought is go to the big donut.
Yep. And okay, again, notes. Lars is a dick.
Yeah, just.
Oh, and actually, because we were going to record this earlier, so I have like shorter notes from the previous time, where I wrote Lars is still a dick.
Yes.
Yes.
He is a massive dick.
Yeah, both times I watched these episodes, I got a very strong feeling about this subject.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is a specific episode to address that.
Okay.
Though it should be noted, while Lars is being a dick, Stephen says, that's Lars. We're basically BFFs.
Yeah.
Well, so they're at the big donut. Lars is just making fun of Stephen, saying that he's in a magical love bubble.
Yep.
While Sadie is hammering on the bubble.
This is true.
Yeah.
And also, we are faced with our deadliest foe yet. Trans fats.
Yes.
So evil that Connie isn't allowed to touch them.
And then we have Sadie actually being pretty badass, just running, screaming from the big donut with a chair to break it over the bubble.
Yes, but I don't think that we've just kind of talked about just how shocked and appalled Stephen gets when he realizes, about the evils of trans fats.
Yeah.
He's just like, he completely forgets about the bubble.
Well, donuts are a main part of his diet.
And they're riddled with trans fats.
Well, in the transcription I'm reading, there are 4 exclamation points on that.
Yep, 4. That's a lot.
An overuse, in my opinion, but I'm stingy when it comes to exclamation points. Yeah, this is a nice little scene.
Yeah. Also, Stephen says that Lars and Sadie are crazy about each other.
Yeah.
When Connie asks, it's like, do they get on? Because they're just arguing and kind of...
Yeah. But,
yeah.
And that's kind of true. But I love how just completely deadpan Stephen is when he says it. It's just, they're crazy about each other. Like it's something everyone knows.
Yeah. Because it's so obvious as they're arguing.
I mean, I suppose, if Stephen recognizes it, it's probably true.
Yeah.
And, he probably sees these people every day.
Mm.
Or several times a day.
But he still doesn't realise that Lars is a dick.
Yeah. Because he believes in people.
Mm.
He believes in the heart of the cards.
Okay.
So next we go to the Beach City Pier, where we see Connie knows a fair amount about boats.
Yeah. Because we see a slipjack and a trawler. And she knows about this because she spends a lot of time at beaches and can't swim and has no friends.
Yeah, and then we're introduced to another character, one of the few non-speaking characters.
Yeah, but he still has a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, Onion.
Okay, I'm just gonna read verbatim what I wrote down. Um, onion, just onion. What? Popcorn. Access to harpoons.
Yeah, Onion may well be evil. We don't know at this point.
I don't think he's evil, but no, access to harpoons.
So they try and ask Onion to harpoon the bubble for them.
Mm-hmm.
Which Steve was like, it'll work, it'll be fine.
We'll be fine. Just don't get hit by the harpoon.
He doesn't even think about worrying about that. I also like the difference in tactics between the two characters. Stephen draws an elaborate diagram to explain, and Connie just spells out harpoon gun.
Mm-hmm. Onion understands the words harpoon gun.
Yeah.
Even though might he might either be like younger than Stephen, or he could be older than the gems.
Yeah. Or Stephen could be illiterate.
No, I think Stephen can write.
Well, we know he can read later on, so
Mm.
if his reading comprehension is particularly bad. So
yeah, the harpoon just kind of bounces off the sphere of safety,
and sinks a trawler.
Which pleases Onion.
Yes, this pleases him.
Sink more ships, more destruction. Onion demands it.
You're actually surprisingly onto his character.
When do we next see Onion?
Episode 11.
Okay.
Well, he may be in the background of episode 9, but he's definitely in episode 11.
Okay. Well,
and then there's an Onion-specific episode at episode 15.
At level 15, we unlock the full features of Onion.
Yes.
Okay.
So next, they go to Funland, Beach City's amusement park.
Because accidents happen there.
Yes.
That is Stephen's reasoning. Accidents happen at Funland more than anywhere else. So it's the best place to burst a bubble.
His specific line is, tons of horrible accidents happen here every day.
Every day.
Yeah. So they climb onto a roller coaster and roll along it.
Mm-hmm. Into the roller coaster coming in the opposite direction.
Yep.
Doesn't burst the bubble.
Nope, but the owner of the park hits the emergency brake and flings the bubble off into the ocean. And they sink to the ocean floor.
Okay, and then... Ah, yes, this is where Stephen gets out the bracelet.
Yeah, no, not quite yet.
Oh.
First they're rolling around a bit, and then they see the worm monster, which eats the bright red seaweed, then burrows underground, causing the earth to shake, and a crevasse to open up beneath the bubble, and they fall even further underwater. And then Stephen hands her the bracelet, because she's upset. And
she gets upset because she talks about how only her parents will miss her because she doesn't have any other friends, or she doesn't have any friends.
Yep.
And then Stephen's just like, we cool?
We could be friends.
Mm.
And then we have a flashback to a year ago when
When she dropped the bracelet and Stephen was just kind of
disabled. It was on a parade float.
Yeah. For our Mr. Universe cameo.
Yep.
For this episode, which I made sure to note down. Yeah, and then we're done with that bit of conversation, and then the giant worm attacks again.
Yeah.
Oh, no, wait. No, my notes are wrong. This is when basically Connie says that she would all be friends with Stephen.
Yeah.
The love bubble bursts.
And Stephen leads them to the surface.
Yes. And then they're attacked by the
giant worm.
Giant worm again. Which sends them soaring towards the beach.
Yep. And Connie tries hiding in the rocks underneath the Funland Pier.
Mm-hmm.
And Stephen tries to bravely lead it off.
Yeah. And then Stephen realizes that, the worm is just hungry.
And is going after the bracelet. Because it looks like the seaweed.
Stephen's mind is on food at the moment because he's probably hungry.
Well, yeah, he's doing a lot of moving around.
Yeah. He's been in the bubbles since morning. It's almost evening by the time that they're, I think.
I don't remember what the sun's like.
I think it was getting rather late.
He's probably hungry.
He's probably hungry.
But then again, you can say that about almost any time. Usually directly after he's finished eating.
Before we get kind of unfairly rude to
the savior of the universe.
Yeah.
He performs a Hoth maneuver.
Yeah. He leads the worm just around all of the different beams that's holding up the rotting pier, and then the worm snaps them all and makes the pier collapse on itself.
Yep.
Causing it to explode into smoke and then just leave the gem.
Yeah. And then the gems come to save them.
Yeah, just nothing compared to the deadly foes of trans fat and steady inclines.
Well,
which were insurmountable.
Yeah, but those are truly cosmic foes.
Exactly. I mean, ending on defeating the giant worm, that's just...
It shows Stephen's scope. When he's become his true self, maybe then he can defeat the scourge that is slight inclines.
No, because I think maybe I'm missing something here. Maybe we start off with the greatest foe, the steady incline, to show that only once a hero has known defeat can he know victory.
Maybe.
I think that must be what it is.
Yeah. And back to the episode. So the gems come up, and it bubbles away the worm monster, and then Amethyst and Pearl get right back to being horrible to Stephen.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Pearl's I think Amethyst might be being... Well, Amethyst is just being Amethyst, and Pearl is just really excited for Stephen.
Yeah, and I like Garnet's response to this. Just picks them up, don't mess with his funky flow, and walks away.
Yeah, and Connie doesn't say anything about this, I don't think.
I know, she just goes, funky flow, and Stephen's like, oh no. Why am I such a nerd?
God damn it, Garnet, you messed with my funky flow.
Yeah. It's just the image of sort of Garnet just picking up Pearl and Amethyst and walking away.
Yeah.
Actually, that's something that happens a lot, people being bodily picked up.
It's the only way.
I guess so.
At this point, I wrote down, where do the crystals go? Where do the gems go?
We find out in another episode.
Yeah, but I want to know now.
Do you want me to spoiler it for you?
Kind of, yeah.
They're stored in the basement.
Wow. I'm glad that you kind of ran that past me to make sure that I was ready for that information before you told me that.
You know what the bigger question is? What are the gems? Anyway, what did you think of this episode?
It's very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best adjective for it. It's really sweet.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think maybe the fight at the end just kind of felt out of place. I'm just wondering if maybe they could have done the episode where it was just Stephen and Connie and not have the gem monster. But it does kind of affect. Well, it's like the second half. It's like when it forces them into the situation which kind of leads to them escaping the bubble, and then it's. I don't know. I'm not sure how to describe it. I just think that maybe without the.
If you removed it as a B plot,
Yeah,
I'm sure there would be a way to write it, because the conflict of this episode essentially is Stephen can't get out of the bubble,
yeah,
and that has nothing to do with the monster.
yeah.
So you could do all manner of stuff. I mean, also one of the things I quite like is it sets up the rules, his bubble, quite nicely.
Kind of, yeah. It just kind of shows how resilient it is.
Well, and also
That it's watertight.
well, and it lasts as long as he doesn't feel safe.
Hmm.
He didn't feel safe with Connie. Safe isn't quite the right word, but comfortable with her.
Yeah.
Until they really settle down and come together.
Which the monster kind of forced them into.
Yeah, you're right. It could have been written out and done slightly differently, but also I think maybe it's interesting to think of it. The episode's kind of in two halves. One's in the normal world, the other is in the magical gem world.
Mm-hmm.
So once they're underwater, it's very much more magical. It's in Stephen's world then, whereas the beginning is in Connie's world.
I don't know, it still feels a lot like Stephen's world because the first place to go to is the donut place.
Fair enough. I suppose
I get what you're saying, yeah. It does feel a lot more magical when they're under the sea.
Yeah, and it looks very nice during that sequence.
Mm. And like the cavern that kind of opens up, which kind of traps them, is very nice as well.
Yeah, shall we move on to the next episode?
Well, have you said like what you thought of this episode? Like what your
I think this is a decent episode. Good introduction to Connie. I kind of wish there was more character to her given, because all of the dialogue very much feels one-sided to Stephen.
Yeah.
But then
I think that kind of, well, from what I've seen so far, I think that does fit Connie quite a bit. But then
that is their characters. I agree with you. Stephen's the extrovert, Connie's the introvert. But I would have liked to see a bit more about her. We learn later on she's a big nerd.
Well, she knows the names of ships. I think it's kind of implied that she's a bit of a nerd.
I know she reads fantasy novels. She casually uses Japanese to talk about things. She's a bit of a weeaboo.
So yeah, is she just a nerd, or is she the kind of writer writing herself into the?
No, she's not that bad.
Not that bad. Okay.
Yeah. But yes, Connie is a good character, and I think this is a fine introduction to her. So, episode 8.
Yes. Serious Stephen, in which we learn that Stephen is anything but serious.
Yeah. Written by Joe Johnston and Jeff Liu. Aired first January 13th, 2014. Okay. Serious Stephen.
Serious. We need to get serious, Keir. We can't go on tangents about immigration, America, Spider-Man. We need to get serious. Serious mode activate.
So yes, this episode begins with a flashback to Stephen waking up in Funland.
Okay, I know I just said that we need to get serious, but I've kind of written down that kind of reminds me of like the opening to a Black Books episode where Bill Bailey or Manny is just kind of going out into the street, and it's kind of filmed in a way that it's kind of like a police procedural type thing, and it's kind of made very serious and all tense, and it's not at all. It's completely lighthearted and jovial, but the way that it's kind of filmed and portrayed, it seems like something bigger is happening.
Is that when he gets Dave syndrome?
Yes.
In this instance, Stephen wakes up looking up at the destruction of the Teacups ride in Funland.
Well, just like this, from the way it's shot, it's just like the destruction of everything.
True. And then, 2 weeks later, they're about to begin their serious mission while they're in the teleporter.
Mm-hmm. At which point it's revealed that, well, the pieces of equipment that Stephen thought were necessary for his first, like, super serious mission is a ukulele.
But I like his explanation for it.
Because he got excited, he liked it, and he grabbed it, was it?
Pretty much. That's such a little kid's response.
Mm.
Also, he's upside down during this bit.
Mm-hmm.
His ukulele floats away from him and he swims after it in the matter transport stream. Maybe it's just because I watched so much Star Trek. that seems a bit weird.
Yeah.
Causing Stephen to rematerialize in the air, and he flies out into a pile of giant strawberries.
At which point, we're faced with our deadliest foe yet.
Greater than a slight incline.
Even greater. Butterflies.
To be fair, they're in his eyes.
They are.
And have you ever looked at a butterfly close up?
Not really, no.
They're quite horrifying.
Mm.
But I'm not the kind of person who likes insects, so.
Mm.
But
also, I think that's the last point in my notes that I've written deadliest foe yet.
I'm sure it'll come up again.
I hope it does.
You want this to be your thing?
No, I think it's a pretty awful thing, and I don't think it's funny at all. I just like saying it.
That's pretty much the show.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Anyway, so after the deadly butterfly attack, Pearl is just like, nope, going home. Stephen's not ready for this.
Garnet kind of pulls rank and says, he's ready for this.
Yeah, they're just butterflies, Stephen. Once again, Garnet's voice actor, Estelle something, her voice acting is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, monotone characters are very difficult to do. And she puts so much into so little.
I don't know, I don't have anything to add to that. It's just completely right.
And then, they goof around for a moment and we find out where they are.
It's an ancient gem battlefield.
Yep.
Which
with large anime-esque swords dotted in the background.
Dotted in the foreground as well. They're just swords everywhere.
Yeah, swords and broken weapons of all kinds. And giant wild strawberries have grown over as far as the eye can see. Then we find the Pyramid Temple.
Yes, the upside-down pyramid.
They enter the pyramid. Stephen is a doof, to quote Amethyst, running around being silly with echoes.
Oh, yeah, because he basically says, what is it, Stephen is awesome?
Yeah.
Really loudly so it echoes. And then he's like, oh, wait, thank you, Temple.
Yeah. How much did you examine this scene?
I looked at it quite a bit. There seemed to be some kind of gem warrior who was either making an aggressive stance or a reverent stance to a gem, or someone who was holding a gem, presenting it. There didn't seem to be a fighter at all. And then there seemed to be like lots of just soldiers or ranks of people in the background as well, in the artwork that was on the temple walls. I'm not sure, I'm probably missing something if you're going to elaborate.
Basically, the background of this scene is what we call deepest lore. In this scene, the only identified person is Rose Quartz, and from my reading of this and others, this is a depiction of the battle against the forces of Diamond.
So Diamond is an evil gem, or?
That's going into later episode stuff.
That's going into heavy spoilers, okay.
Yeah, basically this is the start of the idea that Rose Quartz led a revolt for a war against another gem faction.
Oh.
Over Earth.
And that's not really been delved that deeply into, like, why this civil war started.
They're only just touching on it. Deepest lore still.
Deepest lore.
Now, while they're all examining the stuff here, Stephen starts playing with a magical doohickey.
Yeah, which, for this episode at least, puts our don't touch counter at 1.
We have one of those?
I don't know, I just remember, like, watching it the first time round and thinking, it's like, there are several points in this episode where, Stephen really shouldn't have touched something, and then Pearl says, what have we told you about not touching things?
And his response is, definitely, always, never do it.
Yep, never touch anything. Yeah. And then all he does is touch things.
Yeah, as the gravity in the temple flips, or at least that's what I assume it does.
Yeah, gravity's reversed and they fall upwards, and which would kind of make it into an actual pyramid.
Yeah.
A right way up pyramid.
Yeah. And a nice little thing, they hit the floor, or what would be the ceiling, of this new chamber. The gems all land, and Stephen just, bam, onto his stomach.
Yep.
Now they're in a circular room with torches triangular torches, if I remember, that light up all around the room.
I think so.
I might as well bring up this now. The music in this episode is brilliant.
That's actually something which I've been forgetting to kind of listen out for, to be honest.
In this episode in particular, the music is very much like video game music. Like early Zelda stuff, SNES JRPG type music.
It's the kind of stuff that I'd have thought that I would have noticed. I don't know, maybe it's just because it was so much like the things that I'm into that it just kind of is background and expected, which is why it wouldn't stand out.
Well, I specifically went back and listened to the tracks for this episode. There's two in particular. One of them very much sounds like Corridors of Time from Chrono Trigger.
Chrono Trigger, I know, did have excellent music.
Yeah, and the second one very much sounds like a Zelda track, or perhaps a Metroid track. Definitely like a SNES, NES sound track. Really nice stuff.
Yeah, this is a very action-centric episode.
So the music's very important for this. So they're in a room with a number of doors. Pearl does say how many doors at one point.
I think she said it was 16.
Yeah, something like that.
It's at this point that Pearl kind of suggests that she stays in the center room with Stephen, where it's safe, and they do nothing. Then Amethyst and Garnet go out and explore.
Yeah, to which Stephen replies, "No, I want to explore."
And yeah, Amethyst
just picks up Stephen
and starts running away.
And then Pearl's like, "Nope, you're a disaster waiting to happen."
Which, I don't know, does Amethyst just say, like, yeah, that's fair? Or is that just all from the previous episode?
Amethyst doesn't say anything, sadly, but I imagine she would have done. It was probably cut for time or something. And then Garnet is like, "Nope, Stephen goes with me." And then we get serious Sentai Stephen.
Yeah, but at this point he's still being carried around by Pearl.
Yeah.
So he needs to be put down so that he can.
Oh, he starts his thing. He's like, "Understood, serious Stephen. Pearl, can you put me down?" "Oh, yeah, well, I need to be standing for it to work." And he's like, "Serious Stephen, activate Sentai pose."
And then he just kind of does a kind of crab walk towards the nearest door.
Yeah. He's adorable.
And I think, I guess, basically, Garnet just says, like, "You ready, Stephen? This is going to be intense." And that's when we go back to...
First, we have the room with the glowing panels.
Ah, yes, the glowing panels. Yeah, just simple dungeon things. Have to step on specific tiles. If you don't, then bad stuff will happen.
Once again, fitting very much into the video game motif.
I'm not sure if it's video games, it's just kind of tramps in ancient temples, which...
only occur in
where else
games.
do you see them?
Other than Dungeons and Dragons, nowhere. Which is one of the great shames of our lives.
Yeah.
But Stephen manages this room quite well until there's suddenly a motion in the room, startling Stephen, and he falls over.
And I'm not sure whether to add this to the don't touch counter, because he does technically touch one of the tiles he's not supposed to, and it does make bad stuff happen, but it kind of wasn't his fault.
Yeah, and then we get Garnet being badass.
Yes.
Literally,
Stephen's about to fall into a pit of fire, and she's just...
She literally launches herself into a part of the wall that her feet are buried in it.
Yes. She impales her... Well, no, she kicks through the concrete wall to support herself.
Yeah. And then they go into the next room, and we get...
this where Stephen tries to tune his ukulele, just in case.
A little moment on. First, sort of the room moves, as we find out in a bit, and Stephen doesn't feel well. He's like, "No, I'm okay," and flexes. And the great line from Garnet, "All right, but be careful, it might trigger a trap in that gun show." I think that's a sweet line. I really like their interaction in this episode. Then we get the second don't touch warning.
Yeah, this is definitely... I think this puts us to 2.5.
Yeah.
He's just like, yes, this room definitely has something to do with triangles.
Yeah, push button.
Push button, triangular spikes come from the ceiling to crush them to their deaths.
Yeah, Garnet stops the spikes.
Yep, she basically just summons her gauntlets and punches
the ceiling.
Punches the mushing spikes.
And then Stephen decides to tune his ukulele.
No, that can be the point where he decides to...
Yep. While Garnet is defending him from crushing spikes, Stephen tunes his ukulele.
Stephen does what Stephen does.
Yeah, and Garnet isn't even mad. She's just... That probably isn't the best time to be doing that.
Well, yeah, Stephen does what Stephen does. She knows this.
And it's now that in the next room, which we see is full of flying blades, falling lava, spikes, Garnet says, "Get ready, Stephen. This is going to be intense," causing Stephen to have a Narn flashback.
Yeah. to the teacups. So yeah, we get a flashback to the fun park where Garnet says, "Get ready, Stephen. This is going to be intense."
Yeah, as they're about to go on the teacups ride. I assume it's sort of they're having a day out with Stephen, which I think is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Pearl misunderstood the ride entirely.
I'm not sure what she thought it was. Well, she basically has a teapot and a teacup.
She just has a teapot. She's holding it over the teacup. I totally misunderstood this ride. I don't understand the thought process there.
Me neither, but I still like it.
I mean, maybe she thought it was sort of a whirling teacup thing where you had to pour the tea in, but they'd provide their own teapots in that instance.
Yeah, why wouldn't they provide their own teapot? Why would you go to a teapot party with just, well, why would you go to a tea party with just a teapot?
Surely you need a full service set.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Stephen's on the ride with Garnet. She is just, this is nothing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen's getting nauseated and jumps off the ride.
Yeah, very safe, very serious. He just kind of stands up and jumps off the teacups.
Which, it's not like it's on the ground. This is an elevated ride.
Yeah, this is like maybe 1 score feet up in the air.
Well, we see that the gems landed on a building, a concession stand type building. So it has to be above that height.
It's not safe to jump off.
Yeah, and Stephen falls onto the ride operator, Mr. Smiley, causing mass destruction.
Yeah, it causes the mass destruction that we saw earlier.
Yeah, and then Stephen is banned from all the rides forever.
Mm-hmm.
One of the many things Stephen gets banned from in the course of this series.
But this is the first, I think.
Yep.
Also, again, Stephen touched something. He jumped off the ride. He broke the thing. He touched the thing, and then everything went to hell.
Yeah, I think that counts as another half.
Actually, this one also 2 parts which discount this.
Mm-hmm.
A, it's not an ancient gem artifact, and B, he didn't mean to. So
that's why I say it's a half. I mean, if we're going to have a counter, it has to count on everything. But he didn't mean to.
Well, yeah, but also in the temple, Pearl is like, "What have we told you about touching ancient artifacts?"
I mean, it's common sense, really.
Yeah, and then Stephen wakes up from the flashback.
Yeah, then Garnet just carried him across.
Yeah.
This hideous death chamber while he was having a nap.
Which he almost tries to defend himself, but...
Well, I doubt he could say, "I was having a teacup flashback." Then we go, and then they go out, and they're in the main chamber again, with Pearl and Amethyst freaking out because none of the doors or rooms make any sense.
Yeah, you kind of go out of the door, you're on a straight line, and then you just return to the center chamber.
Yeah, and we see in the background Amethyst running through different doors, returning with a bear trap on her head, and then coming back and frozen in a block of ice.
Mm-hmm. She's kind of freaking out as well. They all kind of are.
Well, Pearl and Amethyst are. And Garnet's just like, we need to go into the rooms again, and again, and again. Then Stephen figures it out.
It's just like the teacups.
Yep, they're being spun around.
Mm-hmm.
So Garnet does the only logical thing.
Destroy the floor.
Yeah, into the hidden lower room.
Which is basically just the mechanism which is spinning everyone around.
Yeah.
Although I'm not sure, do we say that this is just like the teacups? Or just like the inexplicably useful scenario that happened to one of the main characters not 2 moons ago?
Well, it's not even 2 moons, it was 2 weeks.
I mean less than 2 moons.
It is specifically said, this is just like the teacups. So they go into this secret room. Pearl starts explaining it, like she figured it out, and the Garnet shuts her down.
Well, she's not like explaining it like, oh yeah, this. She's just explaining it in detail and giving her own kind of holographic explanation of the mechanism behind it. And
yeah, but she specifically says this is just like the teacups ride at Funland.
Yeah, she says this is just like the teacups. She's agreeing with Stephen.
Well, then she gets embarrassed when Garnet points it out and has to hide her hologram, which starts changing.
Yeah, that's something which I paused and tried to figure out. It wasn't a great image that I saw, but it's basically the last bit is just a teapot and then like a bubble that comes from the teapot spout. But I'm not sure. There was something more to the bubble, and I'm not sure if I was just trying to make something of it, but it looked almost like Pearl's face.
Possibly. That's a very interesting parallel, because I don't think they do a hologram mistake again. But, I think it was changing into sort of something that will to reflect her embarrassed thoughts.
Mm.
And then Garnet throws Stephen into the centre of the room, to the centre of the mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
where Stephen grabs onto Gem, so Stephen removes the gem, and the temple explodes.
Yep. And I'm not sure if I've got anything else written down there. Just
Then it's Pearl jumping up from where she landed. Stephen, where is he? Amethyst points him out, and Stephen's holding the gem, covered in strawberry juice once again.
yeah. And yeah, then he just kind of gets out his ukulele, sings a little song, and gets attacked by the butterflies again.
But you're in his eyes again.
Mm-hmm.
So, what did you think of this episode?
This one I liked. It was kind of like, well, it was very kind of video game-ish, I guess, with the whole let's go to the temple, let's explore the temple, let's get the loot from the temple, let's overcome all of these different traps and hazards and cool things, and everything fit. It wasn't like, oh, we're just going to have like conflict here because we need conflict in the script. It's just, well, this is just one big challenge, and it's Stephen kind of overcoming it, and it was fun.
Yeah.
So we kind of like we had like the two dark episodes. We had Cat Fingers and Fribo, and then we just had episode 7, which was Bubble Buddies, which was just kind of like the light-hearted, sweet
slice of life episode.
Slice of life, just very nice.
Mm.
And now we've got like the more kind of actiony, adventure-y type thing, which is just kind of getting, I don't know, I guess back on track. It was the fun adventure, and I think these two go hand in hand kind of like really nicely as a pair. And it's, I don't know, for me these two are kind of like what Steven Universe should be. It's just like a really nice story about this really nice kid who's also doing all of these really fun adventure type things.
Fair enough.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a really nice, straightforward action episode. They do some nice stuff incorporating deepest lore. I mean, I have some nitpicks. Like, I cannot understand the point of the temple.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the point of the temple was either, but I think I let that slide on 2 counts. 1, I think they're probably going to go into it later. 2, temples are always fun.
That's fair enough. I mean, that's really my biggest thing. I can't wrap my head around why this structure exists.
Yeah.
Because the gems didn't know about it because they're surprised when they see it, though Garnet does have a key to it.
I think there are things, like, supposedly it's a battlefield, but then there's a temple with traps in the middle.
Yeah.
Was it supposed to just be some kind of incarceration place where they captured someone, they put them there, and just kind of assumed that they wouldn't be able to figure out how to get out of it?
So presumably no other gems have ever gone on a teacup ride.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my only problem with the episode. It's just a fun episode. As I've said, I really like the interaction between Garnet and Stephen in this episode. This is the first real development of that we see thus far in the show, which steps up and really makes her a very caring character and fleshes her out from just the stoic one.
I think we do get a hint of that in Bubble Buddies, but yeah, serious Stephen is where it's really on display.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, so yeah, these 2 very good episodes.
Yeah.
Pull us out.
Thank you for listening to this audio log of the Steven Universe Rewatch podcast on the Expletives Included YouTube channel. Thank you for watching, and good night.
Good night.